Titans, go!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, and with me in Titans Tower, everybody's favorite Titan talker, certainly mine, Jesse Jackson.
Hello, Charles. It is good to be in the tower. It is good after, we could argue, 20 years?
Yes.
that
Plus,
we have original...
Probably going on closer to 25.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a Teen Titan, Titan Talk, whatever you want to call it. We have a show.
We have a Titan show.
We have a Titan show to discuss. And I am so ecstatic. On Friday, I don't know about you, but I was immediately like, okay, when is it released? When is it released? When is it released? When is it released?
Right.
Even though I knew I couldn't watch it till I got home.
Do we have it yet? Do we have it yet? Do we have it yet?
Yeah. Yes.
Just like a little kid.
It was. And on Thursday night, my lovely bride, Linda, goes, oh, by the way, I think I forgot to tell you, I have dinner plans Friday night. I'm going with my friends. I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay. I'll miss you. And inside I'm going, yes! Now I don't even have to wait till she goes to sleep to watch Titans.
So she didn't want to watch it with you.
No. That other show we talk about?
Yes. That Doctor Who thing. Maybe
yes.
that little known show. Yes.
She is all in for that.
So you're one for two. That's 5.
I was like, I'm not going to push it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Now, what my wife Lori, as we'll talk about a little later, watched the pilot with me. Not as forgiving as yours truly, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But because as you well know, because you were there at our wedding,
yes,
our marriage is kind of based on the Titans because my wife Lori and I met. Back in, the early 90s when we were all part of the original Titan Talk, the Titans fan group that we had together and that you were a part of. And then that's how Lori and I met. We got closer and we decided to get married, and you were kind enough to come out and kind of give away the bride in absence of her father, which she always treasures to this day, as do I.
And do I. One of my favorite memories and one of the best weekends I've ever had. And this is how you and I became friends.
Right.
And then this led to us doing Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast.
Right.
Together, we have just been friends forever. And it all started because
we both like the Titans.
Marv Wolfman and George Perez decided, hey, let's take these Nick Carty type characters and let's do something a little different with it.
Right. So here we have a TV show based on those characters, and it tries to do a little something different from that.
Absolutely.
So with what I feel is mixed results, but we'll talk about that here shortly.
And I did not see that either Wolfman or Perez got any credits.
Yeah, there was a bit of a controversy over this weekend because we're recording here on Sunday the 14th.
Yes.
2 days after the premiere on DC Universe, and Gary Conway, famous comics legend Gary Conway, kind of called out the Titans executive producers, including Jeff Johns, for not crediting Marv and George in the episode. And considering, well, hey, they created Raven, they created Starfire, they helped kind of revamp um, Beast Boy into his more modern persona from his original Doom Patrol
Right.
appearance. And not to mention, like there's other characters like, that Marv created Konstantin Kovar, who's in this episode. And, just the implication of Arella, Raven's mom,
Yes.
which we'll talk about. So they should obviously get their due. And a lot of people, including myself, were not very happy about that.
Yeah, and I wonder if it is all this, if there's all kinds of legal and financial. I know that.
I wouldn't think so, because they've been created, like they've given creative credit to like Cyborg in the Justice League movies.
Yeah, and also.
So I don't know why Titans couldn't do the same.
And I know that George has posted in the past, George Perez, that
Yes.
He talks about, since he doesn't follow video gaming, they'll use his images and his characters, and he'll get a check in the mailbox that he didn't know anything about. Like, oh, okay, that's nice. So, and I'm
hoping that this gets corrected. I hope this was just an unintentional oversight that gets fixed by the time episode 2 comes out on Friday.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm ready to go down. You usually lead us.
Yeah.
So I am ecstatic to talk about this.
All right. Well, I'll kind of t-ball this, set this up for you for you to knock it out of the park. How's that? All right. So let's dive right in. First episode, Titans, released on, as I said, October 12th, 2018. Teleplay by Akiva Goldsman and Jeff Johns, based on the story by Goldsman, Johns, and Greg Berlanti from the DCCW shows, the Berlantiverse, as it's commonly known, and directed by Brad Anderson. And we had a few notable guest cast members in this, which I want to address. Obviously, Jesse knows the primary one I want to talk about, being Sherilyn Fenn, as quoted, listed as Raven's mother. And there's a bit of an explanation about her character, which we'll talk about, that she's not Raven's mother. Or is she Raven's mother? It's kind of nebulous.
So
the question is she Angela Roth, a.k.a. Arella from the comics?
Yeah, I do not know, but if I can go to the real world just for a moment,
yes.
I'm watching this and I'm like, I know that actress.
Yes.
I know that actress. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I wasn't connecting.
Charles posts a lot about that because, hey, I'm a big Twin Peaks fan.
Yes.
And obviously host a Twin Peaks podcast, Ghostwood.
Right.
So this is a big geeking moment for me.
I'm like, who is she? And so I pause, I go to IMDb, because I used to, when I was younger, Charles, I would play the game that I would try to figure it out before going to IMDb. Now that I'm old, I'm like, you've given up totally. And it wasn't listed, and so I listed and I went, Twin Peaks. And sure enough, as they did a close-up to her, I went, oh my goodness, Charles is going to lose his stuff.
Yeah.
Like, two of his great passions, pushed together. It would be like if Peter Davison shows up in the Titans, you're like, yes.
Yes. It was very happy. Or I was very happy, obviously, because being such a Twin Peaks fan. Now, this, interestingly enough, isn't Sherilyn Fenn's first comics crossover. She actually was the original Harley Quinn in the original Birds of Prey pilot that they decided to do some tweaking, and she was replaced by Mia Sara on that show. But she was actually going to be the original Harley Quinn on that show.
Ooh, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, I thought it would have been too, but so kind of a missed opportunity. I was a little led to. I did enjoy Mia Sara's performance because I'm a big Ferris Bueller fan.
Yes, and a highlight a few years ago, the three um, main actresses from Birds of Prey were all at Dragon Con, and Tom did a sketch of the three actresses playing with three Barbie-like action figures of their,
Right.
the of Batgirl and Huntress and
Yeah.
Black Canary, and I had all three of them sign it, and all three of them were just charming and very lovely, and all of them
That's
said
cool.
that when Green Arrow came out, they all called each other and said, "We were just a few years early. We were just a few years early."
Exactly. Well,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, they kind of like showed what could be done, and
yeah,
then I think the Arrowverse, Berlanti with Arrow,
yeah,
kind of went that next step farther. I
yeah.
think.
We may, and just as we're talking here, um, off the Titan off season, we may do a Birds of Prey rewatch.
Ooh,
Just throwing it out there.
that's possible. Now we are going to have Doom Patrol to talk about
Yes,
too,
yes, we're gonna do that too.
because that's a spin-off from
Yeah,
Titans. So yeah.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, I'm hoping that anything original on the
yes.
DC universe we're gonna cover here.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we might as well because
yeah,
obviously it's going to be a while before Titans, the second season, which thankfully, for those who don't know, Titans was picked up for a second season.
yes, I saw
So
that.
we've already got our second season pickup, so that will be out probably late in 2019.
Yeah,
But to get back to our guest
yeah.
casting, that's all right.
No,
We kind of got off on tangent there, and that's cool.
yeah.
Um,
I really really liked her. As we're going to get to specifics, but just right
yeah,
now, before we move on, I thought she was really good playing.
this
This character. I was really happy to see it.
Yeah, and if you're wondering also where you may have seen Sherilyn Fenn, she was on a major arc in Dawson's Creek, and she was on Gilmore Girls, which you may have seen her there if you're a Gilmore Girls fan. So one of my favorite actresses growing up, so had a major
Absolutely.
crush on her back in the day. Also in this cast was Mark Antony Krupa as Konstantin Kovar, which is a very intriguing name because Konstantin Kovar just happens to be the father of the Russian Titan, Red Star. So I'm hoping that at some point we get Red Star on Titans.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Maybe he's come looking, has a grudge because his father was killed by Starfire in this episode. But he was notable. He was in the movie The Sum of All Fears. That was the Ben Affleck, Jack Ryan movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also appeared on the U.S. version of Being Human.
Okay.
So you may have recognized him there. And we also had Jareth J. Murs as the Acolyte. And he's the bald guy that ends up killing off Sherilyn Fenn's character in this episode. He was in The Passion of the Christ.
Mm.
So a pretty notable movie. And you may have seen him recently on the modern version of MacGyver on CBS.
Okay.
That's for a pretty notable cast in this one. Otherwise, you ready to just dive right into our topics?
I am ready.
All right. So, kind of in keeping with the theme of the show's soundtrack in this episode, I decided to use those as our song titles for our theme. For those who listen to us on Next Stop Everywhere, we kind of like play around with our topic themes and try to like relate them to like books or movies or music or what have you. And this time I thought, well, hey, some of these song titles actually work for the theme title, for our topic themes.
Good.
So, first topic, and let's talk about. Well, actually, I take that back. Before we get into the main topics, what's your general overview of the first episode? I want to get to.
So I really liked it. I have a few minor quibbles of a couple of choices, but overall, I was really happy with it, and that's why I was so shocked when I saw on Facebook your posting about,
Yes.
you know,
Well, there were some things I liked, and there's things I
yeah,
didn't like, and we'll talk about
yeah,
those.
and I was a little surprised at some of our fellow former Titan talkers,
Right.
not just your lovely bride, but some others that were going I don't care for this at all.
Yeah,
And so I was really shocked because I went into this and said, okay, this is they made ourselves proud. I mean,
right.
that's how I felt. And then to see someone going, nah, not so much, I was like, wow, I'm really, really surprised.
Yeah, and I think I kind of pointed this out in my Facebook post
Yeah.
and on Twitter that just my general overview thoughts that this show isn't the show that Wolfman and Perez fans wanted. That it isn't the bright, optimistic superheroes. This is obviously a much darker tone. Uh, the more common terminology these days is the grim dark, meaning
Hmm.
kind of like the Zack Snyder take on the DC universe, the kind that Deadpool makes fun of.
Yeah.
'Cause like oh, so dark, aren't you sure you're not from the DC universe? Yeah, that.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of like the 80s Titans, the new Teen Titans, like I am and you are, um, a lot of us were kind of disappointed with that we're not getting that show because if nothing else for thematically, the way I see it is that the Titans are supposed to be that light against the darkness of guys like Trigon and Brother Blood. They're not supposed to complement that darkness. It's supposed to be like that those opposing forces of darkness and light. And to have them be dark as well, for me at least, the tone doesn't quite work. Now that may change later on. I may get into the groove of the show more, and I'm hoping I do. And but that's kind of like overall, that's my main issue, and it's not a deal breaker issue for me, but that's my main issue with it.
But I think we've got that version of the Titans in the comic book.
But
I
we
mean,
but we got
on
but
the animated short, right?
right, right. But my point is,
Yeah.
this is our first live action version of the Titans, and we're not
Hmm.
getting that. I mean, hopefully at some point maybe they'll do a new Teen Titans movie, and
Hmm.
maybe we'll get it there.
Yeah.
But I'm tired of waiting. I've waited so long for a live action Titans show, and I want that bright version. I want that heroic version. And
And I guess what I would disagree, not your opinion, uh, my discussion,
right,
my hope is I just want a good Titan story. I
right,
don't care the theme, I don't care what tone. I just want a good story showing these characters in a real life in a live setting with live actors. That's all I want. And so I got that. I didn't need this bright sunny the
right.
future's good
And that, and
because
that and that's fair. I
yeah.
get where you come from because story is obviously important. The question is, are you entertained by it? And a lot of people were. Generally this I'd say better than most. By and large, that this was well received.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had people that were just hating on it,
Yeah.
but I'd say it's more like the reaction from people who actually watched the episode was probably more 3/5 to 2/3 positive.
Yeah.
And
And
so that's great. That's great. That's fantastic.
yeah, and I think my thought is that um, the they tried to make a good story.
Right.
Um, I I think one of the things that we're going to see is that Richard Dick Grayson is on a journey to try to distance himself from that darkness of Batman.
Right. Right.
And I think the reality is when he puts on that Robin suit, his muscle memory is to be. That's why you showed the very violent scene of him taking on all
Yeah.
those,
The guys in the alley fight.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
alley fight.
And we'll talk about that a
Yeah.
little later. So we
Okay.
won't. I want to
Okay.
get in that right
Okay.
away.
Okay.
All right. All right. So apologies for kind of
No, no,
throwing
no.
us off a little bit. I just want to kind of get a general overview before we dove right in.
Yeah.
All right. So first topic, Severed, and this was a song by the Decemberists, which actually plays during the kind of cliffhanger with Beast Boy at the end. But I think the song title actually works better for Raven. So I want to talk about Raven first.
Okay.
And who, in my opinion, is probably the best character on Titans, at least from what I saw in this first episode. So I want to get your thoughts on Raven and Teagan Croft as Raven.
I don't know if she's the best,
Yeah.
but if she's not number one, she's 1.1.
Okay.
Unlike my beautiful daughter,
Yes.
I really liked the take on Dick Grayson, and so I'm looking forward to talking about that. I agree. The Raven character, this actress is just sending across this vulnerability,
Right.
yet this inside power. I loved her, let's call it Raven sense.
Yes.
Like
Raven sense tingling.
Yes, exactly. I really liked that where,
Right.
because the first time when she's at the shelter and this very nice lady comes up and, talks to her. You've seen this kind of scene in hundreds of movies with, runaway teenagers.
Yes.
And I perfectly bought the idea that there's another shelter where she'd be safer. But when she said, I know a shortcut, danger, Will Robinson, if I can mix my metaphors. And then to see her inner demon talk to her and saying, be careful,
Right.
I loved everything about that. I loved how scared she was, how much she loved her mother, how much she was worried about hurting someone. Her performance was just everything you could want. But see, once again, this isn't the Raven we got in the New Teen Titans, because Raven was this mysterious woman who knew everything. This is a totally different take, but it's someone that needs help. And as we've determined, Detective Grayson has a thing about helping kids.
Right.
I just thought that was perfect.
Yeah, the way I see it is that it actually was a little bit close to the comic, because you had Raven struggling with this darkness inside her, not knowing how to cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of Wolfman and Perez.
Yes.
Their depiction of the character, that this kind of conflict. Now, granted, Teagan Croft is a much younger actress than what we saw in the comics, but kind of closer to what the animated series was. So a little younger character. The way they kind of set this up is that Robin and Starfire are the older Titans, and you have Beast Boy and Raven as the younger Titans.
Absolutely.
Which is fine. And the way Teagan Croft portrays Raven here is that she's very sympathetic, in my opinion, and she's reaching out to Dick Grayson, like Raven does in the comics. That hey, you're the one who can help me, and she's kind of the catalyst that brings the Titans together, just like in the comics.
Yeah, I think so. I thought that was well done.
Right.
I love the way that we started with her vision of, Dick Grayson's origin story.
Yes.
Which is so well known.
With the Flying Graysons, yes.
So I really liked that part. Like I said, there was an immediate, and often we use the word chemistry to talk about shipping.
Yes.
But in this case, Dick and her had a immediate chemistry of, possible teammates, older brother, younger sister, and
I don't think it's anything romantic.
Yeah,
shipping.
no. But I
think it's more friendshipping here.
Yes, and I liked that a lot. I thought she came across really well. I agree that truly one of the best casting and so far character development is her.
Right. Yeah, I think Raven gets the best character development in this first episode.
Yeah.
I like her interaction with Sherilyn Fenn's her mother,
Yes.
who again we don't know if it's Arella or not. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of vague.
Hmm.
We see that her mother, uh, at least the woman claiming to be her mother,
Yeah.
is obviously very worried about her daughter. Locks her, keeps her in her bedroom, which is covered with all kinds of crosses on the doors.
And by
And
the way,
there's that
yeah.
real ironic shot where the one cross falls off the door and hits the floor
Yes.
to kind of show you that something's obviously not right here.
And, and um, Rachel is
Yes.
what her name.
Yes.
I do have a question. If the locks are from the outside, how did she get out to eat her trick cereal?
Well, that's a good question.
See,
Maybe
yeah,
maybe she figured out how to get past them,
yeah, absolutely,
or maybe just her mom unlocked the door,
right,
but so that she could come down to breakfast. But
absolutely, yeah.
yes,
Like when she got up, because when she
like
came back
exactly. You
down,
know, you get up,
yeah,
you go to the bathroom. Oh, okay, time to unlock my
yeah,
daughter from her locked door.
that
But
that makes a lot of sense.
and
Yes,
and Rachel is concerned about her mother. She's like, "Hey, I see you're not sleeping." And her mother kind of half-heartedly acknowledges that.
yeah. You're
And
supposed to quit smoking.
right,
You
exactly.
shouldn't drink coffee. They had a very sweet relationship, and I liked seeing that because you could tell that um, her mom her mom loves her.
Right.
I mean, this is not a you know, a scary thing. She this is you know I really like the care she's showing and the love they show. That's really really neat.
Yeah, yeah. And the there's obviously a story here with her mother. I want to know because if she's not her mother,
Yeah.
okay, what were the circumstances here? Basing from the comics, was it just the simple fact that she was asked to take care of Raven for whatever reason, and obviously, what part does the acolyte play? It seems to me that they're kind of hinting that they're kind of building up to Trigon by the end of the
Yes.
season.
Yeah.
That the acolyte belongs to some cult, which I think the people that try to kidnap Raven later on at the shelter and whatnot, and the cop
Yeah,
at
totally
the
agree.
Detroit Police Department that I think they're part of this cult, and I'm kind of curious to see what they're about. Does it have anything related to Brother Blood? Perhaps we don't know.
Yeah.
And but I think this is all building up to Trigon because obviously with Raven's darkness and her connection to Trigon, as we know from the comics and the animated series, that I think she's obviously a very pivotal character, which I think was the reason they decided to focus on her first in this
Yeah,
series.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, and I know that I'm going to give a shout out to my brother-in-law, John Brockhouse, who is a huge Raven fan, and he absolutely loved Teagan Croft as Raven. He thought that she did a great job. He loved the way they depicted her darkness, and we actually got to see Raven's soul self attacking
Hmm.
someone in this episode. So he was very pleased, and I hope he continues to be so. So John, if you're listening, I hope you enjoyed it,
Yes.
and hopefully you're listening. All right. Anything else about Raven we want to talk about before we move on?
No, no. I love the fact that she had seen You're the Boy
Yes.
and the idea. I think that was awesome. So yeah, no, I just think that was a great
Yeah.
introduction. And we had seen a little bit of the monsters don't exist,
Right.
discussion she had. So, but I don't think they totally took everything away for the in the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. When you just kind of reminded me of something that Raven entering Dick Grayson's dreams was kind of something that was in her first appearance at DC Comics Presents,
Yes.
where that that's kind of how she reaches out at first through
Yes.
Dick Grayson's dream. So I thought that was a nice homage to the comics.
I agree.
All right, let's move on to topic number 2. Speaking of the aforementioned Mr. Grayson, so this will be SOB, which in this episode was a song by Nathaniel Ratcliffe and the Night Sweats, which was this very like honky-tonk blues R&B song that accompanies Raven as she's on the bus to Detroit.
Yes.
But for here, I thought that SOB actually applies to Grayson a little bit because, as we find out, he's kind of a, pun intended, dick to his fellow Detroit cops a little bit, and kind of gets called out for it a little bit. And so I want to get your thoughts on Brenton Thwaites as Dick Grayson and this idea of him being a police detective in Detroit, trying to break away from Batman.
Yeah. First off, I love the joke. Why would he come to Detroit? For the weather? I thought that was a great line. I really liked his take as, Dick Grayson and Robin.
Right.
I thought he looked like the thin, sleek, yet strong body of an acrobat.
Yeah, he's definitely fit, because of
Right.
course we get the obligatory, not like him bare-chested, like cleaning up after his bloodied mess scene.
So, and I thought, okay, see, he was a, he did the high wire,
right?
And he did the, in the circus. So of course he would not be big and bulky. He would be slender yet strong. And so I thought that went well.
Yeah, because he's obviously has to be lean enough to do flips and whatnot.
Right. I would have liked. And I still think he looks a little too young to be a detective.
I agree.
And I also think they did not do a very good job of setting up why he gets to be this ignoring his partner,
right,
and ignoring what the captain said. I realize you only had 45 minutes, but if I was rewriting, I would have had a scene. Either I would have not had Amy show up in this episode,
right?
So that you could have had an episode where the captain, pulls him in, introduces him, and then lets Amy go, and then says, look, Grayson, you have to have a partner. That is the rule.
Right.
Get over yourself, and chew him out and take care of it. Then you could have still seen some tension and not discussion, but that's just the guy who wants everything all the time.
Yeah.
But I loved his seemed like he was almost struggling with putting on the costume.
Right.
It's almost
he was hesitant about putting.
And I think that's because, once again, muscle memory. When he puts on that, he knows he has to go to a darker place at times, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's gone to Detroit,
right,
and becoming a detective, is he wants to do things more on the side of law versus chaos.
Right.
So, your thoughts?
Yeah, as far as being a police detective, I think what they were trying to do here was kind of acknowledge the arc during Chuck Dixon's run of Nightwing from the comics, where Dick Grayson becomes a cop in the Bloodhaven Police Department. But he wasn't a police detective there. He was just a uniformed cop who is given a partner, and that it was Amy Rohrbach. So yeah, Amy Rohrbach is from the Chuck Dixon's Nightwing run. And here, he's a police detective, but we don't get an explanation of how someone so young made detective so quickly. Did Commissioner Gordon make a phone call, or is it just that um, maybe Barbara Gordon whipped up a very impressive resume, or I don't know how that
Yeah.
works. We don't get an explanation for how that happened.
And both are very, I had not thought of either one,
Right.
but both very realistic thoughts that you could show.
Yeah.
I mean, Barbara could very easily um, make a change to show that he was the detective with the Gotham
Right.
police.
Well, they obviously
And
the police department's going to run a background check,
yeah,
so it's got to be in there somewhere logically. But
yeah,
it would have been nice if they had like addressed that a little bit more. It wasn't like they couldn't address it later on,
right.
but it was a little disconcerting at least. Like, okay, how did obviously someone that young looking become a detective so quickly compared to all the other detectives and whatnot?
Yeah, I did like, um,
Like they were kind of suspicious about him. They talked about,
mm,
like, well, they think, what happened with him in Gotham, like what happened to
yeah,
his previous partner? Was he gassed by the Joker? They kind of teased a
yeah,
little bit. And obviously he's going to have to work to earn the respect of his coworkers, which I'm sure will be one of his like minor character arcs throughout the series.
yeah. I think that was actually pretty well said.
Yeah.
I like that. The um, the other thing, I did like the fact that he looked good
Yeah.
in a he looked good in a suit.
Now
I
I thought they did a great job with the Robin costume.
yeah,
It looks
exactly.
really good. It's definitely looks better than what we've seen on the CW.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed with the Robin costume.
Hmm.
Now he is prone to throwing these R-shaped shurikens, the throwing stars for you commoners that don't watch martial arts movies, but um, that which I think is more taken from like Tim Drake's Robin
Yes.
and maybe Damian Wayne's Robin. But that's obviously this, and that's obviously they want to give him his. They don't want to show him using batarangs, and they kind of tiptoe around um, Batman a little bit. Like Batman is referenced, but we never see him. He's not depicted. So apparently, all they can do on this show is mention him, but they can't really show him.
Yeah.
Kind of like what they did on Birds of Prey, except for the pilot.
Yeah. And I also I noticed um they did not say, Batman specifically. They did not mention Bruce Wayne. You hear,
Right.
I want to help you, but yeah, so it does. By the way, before I forget, quick thought.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned Chuck Dixon's run.
Right.
I wonder if their issue, because I'm a big Jeff Johns fan, and I
Yes.
believe he wants to do the right thing. Is their problem? There are so many creators that were involved in this
Right.
that they're like, how do I, like, should they just have a card pulled from the work of George Perez,
Yeah.
Marv Wolfman, Chuck Dixon, da 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 da
Well,
da
they could
da.
do a special thanks because they kind of do
Yeah,
that in the Marvel movies, where it's just kind of
yeah,
special thanks to Chuck
yeah,
Dixon, Marv Wolfman, George Perez, at least acknowledging
mhm,
them.
yeah,
And one of the things Gary Conway mentioned in his critique was that, um, hey, you've got room for 5 producer credits.
right.
Why not squeeze in, a little thanks to Marvin George and Chuck Dixon and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, one thing that I did find interesting, and I'm not sure why they did this, they decided to set up Dick Grayson in Detroit, of all places.
Yeah.
Um, why not Bloodhaven? It's Is it just because it's so close to Gotham City we don't want to have to keep explaining it? Part of me kind of wonders if it's because Jeff Johns is from Michigan and he's a big Michigan proponent. So
Hmm.
obviously, me being an Ohioan, obviously there's some friction there because of a little OSU Michigan rivalry.
Yes.
Go Bucks! But that it just seems like, well, I want to kind of give Michigan a little acknowledgement, but it seems like a very weird place to have Dick Grayson set up shop.
And do you think now it's filmed in Canada, I assume, like everything
Yeah,
else, right?
exactly.
Yeah. So I wonder if they just
Vancouver,
want
I
that
think, or something
that
like that.
that grittiness of Detroit. You immediately think of a gritty town. I don't know. But it was the images look good. What did you think of his look as not just in the costume, but just his overall performance?
I thought he was fine. The way that this Dick Grayson is written is obviously he's very bitter and angry, and for some of this episode, it seemed like they were writing Dick Grayson as Jason Todd with his personality.
Hmm.
Because if you're familiar with Batman comics, you know that Jason Todd, the second Robin, was angrier and more of a rebel and more prone to violence than Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson was kind of the gold standard.
Right.
So that's part of my issue with this Dick Grayson is that he's being written as Jason Todd. He doesn't have Dick Grayson's personality. Now I get what they're doing is they're trying to show this Dick Grayson angry and trying to break away from Batman.
Right.
And there's an exchange in here that Dick and Amy have where he's kind of vaguely hinting about his relationship with Batman to her and saying
Yes.
that like, well, I didn't want to be like him.
But you
But
are.
but that's and then that's my issue here is that he's obviously being like him. Like the guy that the guy that he goes after, this Tyler Hackett guy in the alley, he just kicks the crap out of him while he's down.
Yeah.
And rather brutally, and something that obviously turned off my wife Lori to this because it just seems so out of character for Dick Grayson. If you're a Dick Grayson fan, if you're a Nightwing fan and a Robin fan, it just that harsh brutality. I mean, it just seemed very excessive and unnecessary to get the point.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. It didn't bother me. I watched very carefully, and you know,
Yeah,
I'm an old time, Batman and Superman don't kill,
right.
right?
Yes,
So I was very careful to watch that, and while he certainly beat them up pretty strong,
right,
it does not look like there was anything fatal.
right. And that's a good point because in the first trailer that we got, the very controversial trailer
Yes.
that turned off a lot of fans right away to Titans, and I'm not sure they're going to get some of those fans back. Maybe they will through word of mouth if the show continues to be good.
Right.
But it turned a lot of people off that in that first trailer, he actually killed people.
Yes.
He grabbed one of the villains, like one of the attackers' guns, and shot other people in with it. And then also like that one of the guys he takes out, maybe this Tyler Hackett guy, after he's unconscious on the ground, he steps on his neck with his boot and breaks his. We hear a crunch, so like he crushed his windpipe and killed him, snapped his neck.
Yeah.
Now the way it's shot here, though, in this pilot, we don't see Robin using a handgun. All we see him is throwing his shuriken, and we don't get that moment where he steps on the guy's neck and that crunch. So I'm hoping that it looks like they kind of maybe listened to some of the criticism and fixed it before the first episode, or that first trailer was just so intentionally misleading.
Yeah.
One or the other.
I don't know what it was, Charles, but that specifically,
I'm glad they corrected it.
I am too, because I was watching that very carefully.
I was too.
And then I went, oh, okay.
So your perception is the same as mine on that.
Yes, exactly, because I couldn't remember. I was like, did I misremember the trailer? But I don't think I did.
No.
And I'm glad you said the same thing. Like, no, it was very clear.
Yeah, you could go back and watch the first trailer and go like, hey, well, that wasn't what appeared in the actual episode. And I'm glad.
Yeah, I am too. I'm very glad for that change.
Yeah, so that obviously helped my opinion a little bit, because if Dick
Yeah,
Grayson was breaking guys' necks with his boot, that would have
yeah.
been like, who is this guy? And that was
Hmm.
that was a very sticking point for me. All right.
Absolutely.
Anything else about Robin before we move on?
Nope.
All right, let's move right along to our third and final topic this week. Heaven must be missing an angel. So that's obviously the Tavares song that as is used for Starfire in this song. So going back to 70s disco, kind of appropriate given her attire in this episode. And that's Anna Diop as Starfire. I want to get your thoughts on our rather enigmatic Starfire and the changes to her powers from the comics, and your overall thoughts about her. So, what is your take on Starfire?
So I had just, my wife and I had binged, is it Becoming Eve, the BBC America
Oh,
about the womaness?
yeah, I know it's
Yeah,
Killing
yeah,
Eve.
Killing Eve. Yeah,
Yes,
which is a really good
I
series.
have not seen it.
Uh, and
I've heard good things
but there,
though.
yeah, it is. The whole idea of this assassin living, a female assassin.
Right.
So it had a little bit of vibe that when um, she goes back to the hotel room and there's this, I thought, very funny discussion of,
With the concierge. Yeah,
yeah, what
yeah,
do you
yeah,
need? And
yeah. Well,
and pretending to, um,
there's a
you
little
know,
hint about Starfire's open sexuality, which I thought was
yes,
nice to see.
yeah. It does not bother me that she had lost her memory.
Right.
It does not bother me that she ended up killing the Russian bad guys
You're right.
when she loses her power.
Right.
What does bother me is I really, really hate her, her jacket and her,
Yes,
whatever coat she's
the
wearing.
costume that she's wearing. Yes,
Yeah,
basically it's like this '70s hooker outfit,
yeah,
and
and
there's no
every
way to really sugarcoat it, because it's this
yeah,
big, like '70s looking fur coat
yeah,
over what appears to be like, at least that costume that she's wearing looks a lot like streetwalker clothes.
yeah, and you didn't have to do that. You could have just had her in, she could have been wearing, very sexy clothes with
Right.
a winter coat.
Right.
She could have looked stunning.
Right.
I I don't particularly like the hair.
The kind of the
Yeah,
permed hair.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the color.
Yeah.
I just don't. I know now when she becomes quote unquote Starfire and
Right.
she becomes CGE.
CGI.
CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that look. I
Right.
loved her eyes, and I
With
loved
whether
her.
she's blazing with power and
Yeah,
fire.
yeah.
Now, I kind of wonder about the decision to change her powers from the comics, because in
Mhm,
the comics she has this kind of energy
right.
blasts, these star bolts,
Mhm.
and here, they in the comics they went scree, and like they were blasting
Yeah,
with energy. Here she's basically the Human Torch in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
And that, like I said, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with her not knowing what's going on.
Right.
That's not. That is. It's it can be a cliched, story point, but depending on how you handle it.
Right.
So I, I, except for the appearance, I
Right.
liked everything about her. I liked her confidence. I liked her ability. Um, I just didn't like the way she looked, and I think I could get past the color hair and the frizziness, if she just was in something a little less tacky looking.
Yes. Yeah. My take on Starfire was that Anna Diop, who plays Starfire, was the subject of rather harsh treatment on the internet, and
Yes.
undeserved treatment, because
Yeah.
obviously she's a black woman playing Starfire,
Yeah.
and so it's nothing more than just racism against her.
Yeah. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I was reluctant to go with her appearance to
Right.
talk about that because, and I want to stress it is it is the clothes that bothers me more than I and I just don't know if I like it, but I'm going to get used to it. I thought her portrayal
Yes.
was spot on. I thought she was, she faked being confident really well.
Right.
I loved at the scene afterwards where she kind of smiled at the burnt crisp. There was a little bit
The
of
extra
this.
crispy Konstantin Kovar.
Yes, I like that about her. So I'm gonna hold off giving a total, thumbs up, thumbs down. But just just being frank, since it's just you and I talking.
Right. And everybody else listening. Yes. My take was that Anna Diop, who, again, like I said, was the subject of all this horrible treatment, she's actually really good as Starfire.
Yes.
She's a good actress. She did a great job, I thought. It's just this depiction of Starfire by the writers and that I have a problem with. So she's fine in the role. It's just her character. And I want to distinguish between those two because she is just, I know it's just like, well, there's this problem with Starfire. It's like, well, that's not Anna Diop's fault. That's the writer's fault. And I say this as a writer, so I want to distinguish that.
Sure.
But the Starfire here, again, isn't the Starfire that we know. And
right.
for deliberate reasons. I get that. Starfire is usually the bright, sunny optimist. And I know sometimes she's depicted as naive, which we didn't need. But it would, that she's this kind of ray of sunshine that comes in the room and just lights up the room. And her character here, Diop's character here, isn't that. What she is here, she's portrayed as someone who's obviously lost her memory, doesn't really know who she is. She finds her purse and goes through it and sees her passport name is Corey Anders, but doesn't seem to realize this. We're introduced to her waking up after a car accident where there's bullet holes in the side of the car and something has obviously gone down.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happened. And I'm presuming that over the course of the season, we're going to get more answers. But she obviously has some instinctual memory because when she goes back to the hotel and speaks fluent German with the concierge, it's apparent that she's been on Earth for some time. But we don't know what happened because she's an amnesiac. And it's, so we've got a lot more questions with her than answers. And I wasn't upset by her killing Constantine because, as we know from the early Wolfman and Perez run, that Corey was a killer that essentially had to be talked down from killing. She was trained as a warrior, and it's kind of like a very odd introduction because from the comics, we know that she comes to Earth, escaping her captivity by the Gordanians, and she encounters the Titans, and they fight the Gordanians, and Starfire stays with the group, and becomes attracted to Robin and whatnot, which I'm presuming we'll get later. But she's this strong warrior who escapes her captivity that we know of. Here, though, it's something completely different, and I'm hoping that we'll get those answers that we so sorely need right now. Like, we don't know how she got to Earth. Did Starfire somehow possess this woman in this version? Is it like something that maybe she took over her body? Or is it just that she was an alien and is now trying to remember and remembers that she's an alien?
I don't know. I think you have an interesting dilemma.
Yes.
Because as you're describing, you're talking about her dark side.
Yes.
pun intended.
Yes.
Yeah, not Trigon Darkseid. No, her.
Yeah, that's
her
a whole different super.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her evil, not evil, her very warrior background,
Yes.
but also her sweetness and, as you said, sometimes being naive.
Yes.
So I don't know if you could have done both of them on the TV show. So, but I think we'll see how that happens. I think right now they wanted to show
Right.
the warrior side of her, and I think we will get to see the lighter side. We saw it a little bit when she was speaking German. To the
Yes.
concierge.
Yes. Yeah. No, so I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I think overall a good introduction. So far we've met 3 of the Titans.
Yes.
And I've been very, very happy.
Right.
With Rachel, very, very happy with Dick.
Yeah.
Happy with Corey.
Yeah. And then now we have like really, really quickly. I don't think there was enough here for a full topic, but I want to talk about Beast Boy. And
did not work for me at all.
Okay, so we're introduced to Gar Logan, who apparently in this little teaser for his later appearances at the end of the episode, we see him as a tiger, and thankfully he's green as a tiger.
Yes, yeah.
But he basically raids a gaming store and gets a copy of some PS4 game and uses that and takes off with it. And we see him shape-shifting, not so much in that kind of instant transformation from the comics, where it's kind of like a little burst of energy and he's an animal or a human when he returns back to his normal form. It's more of like an American Werewolf in London type physical,
yes,
bone crunching, body shifting, slow transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to get your thoughts really quickly on Beast Boy. And you say you didn't like it.
It just made no sense whatsoever. Why would you become a tiger to go into a Blockbuster to steal a DVD?
Yeah.
That's just to show that he can do that. What purpose is it? Are you stealing video games? I think this episode would have been better served not showing him at all.
Right.
Or at least had a better reason on why.
Well, if you hadn't shown him, people would have gone, "Where's Beast Boy?"
Yeah, I guess
so. There's kind of a no-win scenario, I think.
Yeah, but I just think you could have come up with some other better story, you know?
Yeah.
So, hey.
Well, we'll see. I think obviously we're going to learn more about Beast Boy and as the episodes go on. But it was a very odd teaser for the character.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else about this episode before we talk about our favorite quotes, if you have any?
So, I just overall, I really liked it. I was very happy. I don't know how you watched it. I watched it on my PC.
Right.
I don't have a smart TV, so I can't get the DC app on the big TV. So I had to watch it on my.
No, way I watched
computer.
I use my iPad and I have an connector, an audio visual connector that plugs into the HDMI port on my TV.
Okay.
So that's how I did it.
But I really loved it. I was very happy. But on the DC app,
yes,
there's a picture showing Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they've already given us 2. I should text Charles, hey, are we going to go ahead and cheat? And then I saw that it wasn't available.
No. It's just like, there is, if you want to go on DC Earth, you can watch the kind of Doom Patrol mini shorts, the little mini episodes that they did back when there were Saturday morning cartoons on the CW WB-TV. But yeah, that Doom Patrol's not out yet, so you got to wait for that, unfortunately.
Okay.
I did like the fact that Beast Boy is in Covington, Ohio, of all places, because here in Ohio, that's kind of like it's way west of Columbus, in case you're wondering where it is, and it's just a very small town. Apparently, I think it's only got like 2,000 people in it, so it was a very odd choice. Somebody must be from Covington, Ohio, for the reason to decide to pick that town, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I just wanted to acknowledge that for a little bit. All
Okay.
right. Do you have any favorite lines of the episode?
No, I did not find a lot of quotable stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
the weather line was nice. I did not find this. I thought it was a good story, but just not a lot that I went, oh, I should write this down.
Yeah.
I take it you did.
Yeah. Well, I had to struggle a little bit. The dialogue in this episode isn't particularly memorable, and
Okay. I feel a little better then.
So again, I think that's a little kind of a critique on the writing in this episode, and then I kind of chalk that up more to Goldsman than Johns, but
Yes.
I think Akiva Goldsman's all over this. If you're familiar with his previous work, like on the Lost in Space movie or what have you, so. Some of the exchanges I enjoyed was the exchange between Corey and the concierge, the German concierge.
Yes, that was
she
very
says,
clever.
the concierge says, "Can I send something up to your room?" And Corey replies, "What did you have in mind?" Concierge says, "The same as before," kind of hinting.
Yeah.
And Corey's like, "How exactly would you categorize the same?" And again, I should say this is all in German, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just translating here, obviously. The concierge kind of smiles coyly and says, "Oh, madam, you make me blush."
That was nice.
And Corey kind of pauses for a moment, taking that in, and smiles, and she says, "Maybe just some coffee." Yeah, coffee would be great. So, thought that was good.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
We had an exchange between Amy Rohrbach and Dick Grayson.
By the way, we did not get much from her, but the ones we did, I liked her.
Yeah, you like Lindsay Gord as Amy Rohrbach.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, we'll see. I'm sure we're going to get some more with her later on. But for right now, I thought it was an okay introduction. I think Lindsay Gord's going to be just fine. Amy says, "So what? You and your sidekick go bad." And Dick says, "I'm sorry?" Amy replies, "Your partner at Gotham PD. I mean, I'm no mind reader. It just seems kind of obvious." Dick says, "I guess we had different ideas on how to do the job." Amy replies, "And how's that? He on the take? I heard most of Gotham is." Dick says, "No, not him. He was a hero to a lot of people, including me, a stop-at-nothing guy who solved everything with his fists. I admired him at first, what he did or was trying to do, but eventually I had to walk away." Amy replies, "Why?" Dick says, "Because I was becoming too much like him."
Yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah. And the last thing I have is this brief exchange between Rachel and Dick, where Dick kind of reveals this very nice silver Porsche and to her, and Rachel's like, "This is yours?" Dick replies, "Family heirloom." And Rachel asks, "From the circus?" Dick says, "Not the one you're thinking."
Yes, that was very funny.
Which is probably the best line of the episode.
Yeah, it really was. I always love the fact that you understand that the Wayne family was billionaires. They were mega rich.
Right.
And so therefore there is this whole Wayne Industries and Dick being ward or adopted son, depending on whatever version of the Batman mythos you want to buy into, would have a trust that would have these money. And I love the idea of, he doesn't drive it all the time.
but when he does, because he's got his like regular car, and then he has his like, okay, I'm gonna like show off a little bit here.
Yeah.
Car. So, so what's your rating for this first episode?
So I was really, really pleased with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was perfect.
Yeah.
But for doing the heavy lifting of setting up the world, doing everything good,
right?
I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 Flying Grayson posters.
Very nice. Yeah.
Which I thought was a really, really nice.
I really did like the Flying Grayson's flashback dream sequence.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
kind of nice to actually see the Flying Graysons actually performing for a little bit because we never get
Yeah.
that when we see the Flying Graysons. We just see them falling.
Yeah, and I love the idea that Dick would have that poster in his loft.
Right.
That's a cool,
Memory.
he's in this cool retro,
Memorabilia. Yeah.
yeah,
The way to
it,
remember his parents. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Um, we're in sync, believe it or not.
Really? Okay.
Really. So yeah, I give it. I realize what it was trying to do, and again, it's the pilot, so I'm willing to kind of overlook some things and hope that the episodes after kind of pick up a bit. I give it 8 out of 10 R-shaped shurikens.
Ooh, nice.
So
I did like that. I liked him cleaning him. I
yep,
liked the look of it. I liked the idea that, going on his, his breastplate.
right,
Yeah, it was nice. I like it a lot.
yep. All right, so we do have some news from Titan's Tower a little bit. I want to just run this down really quickly. I know we're running a little long, so I'll just briefly touch on this.
Yes.
So we did talk about that Titan season 2 is going to happen, and they mentioned at New York Comic Con that apparently season 2 is going to feature the Judas contract with
Ooh, good.
Deathstroke and Jericho confirmed.
Nice.
Presumably Terra, but 'cause you
Yes.
can't have the Judas contract without Terra. I'm sorry, but we'll see. But yeah, that sounds very promising. They're already diving into the Judas contract for season 2, which I
Yeah,
think is a good.
that's good.
After this first season, I think that's a good place to go. And we did get some Doom Patrol casting news really quickly. I want to talk about. So some of the Doom Patrol was recast for their actual regular series as opposed to their Titans episode. Timothy Dalton was cast as the Chief.
Ooh.
So he was previously played by Bruno Bashir in the Titans episode, but if you're going to get somebody, Timothy Dalton's a really good get as the Chief, and this is what is really giving me hope for the Doom Patrol series.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with Timothy Dalton, shame on you, because he was James Bond. He was James Bond in the films The Living Daylights and License to Kill back in the late 80s. And he was also Lord President Rassilon on the Doctor Who story, The End of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a fan of the Showtime series Penny Dreadful, you may recognize him as Sir Malcolm Murray, and he's really good on that show.
He's very, very good on that.
Yeah, so I really like Penny Dreadful, so I know he's going to be just brilliant on Doom Patrol. And it seems like a perfect. I mean, if you watch Penny Dreadful, you know that Doom Patrol is like a perfect fit for him. He's also he played Simon Skinner in the movie Hot Fuzz, Neville Sinclair in The Rocketeer, Prince Baron in the 1980 Flash Gordon movie. So obviously, he's got his geek cred, and
it is.
I'm really looking forward to Timothy Dalton. In addition, Matt Bomer. Apologies.
Okay.
Matt Bomer was cast as Negative Man, who was previously played by Dwayne Murphy in the Titans episode that's coming up as episode 5, I believe. And so he's going to be taking over that role. And Negative Man is the member of the Doom Patrol that essentially was exposed to a mysterious negative energy. He's wrapped in bandages and can unleash this negative spirit out of his body that can fly and do all kinds of amazing things. You may know Bomer from playing Ken in the Magic Mike movies, if you saw those, or he was on USA's White Collar as Neil Caffey.
Yeah, he was really good on that. I ended up giving up on White Collar just because I ran out of time.
Right, so many.
But he was really good in that, and I think he'll do well in that role.
Yeah, and he also voiced Superman in the animated movie Superman Unbound in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And he's appeared on episodes of American Horror Story, Chuck, True Calling, Will and Grace, and Glee. If you're curious, but so he'll be just fine as well, I'm sure. And let's see here. So that's all the news I have.
Okay.
So do you want to talk about our feedback? Do you have I know I have some feedback from my wife.
I did not get any feedback at all.
Okay.
I know on Facebook we got a few comments, but nothing I think specifically for us to read.
Right.
But I do want to hear our Lori Toriel.
Yes. So this is my wife, Lori, who gave her permission to read her rather harsh rant. So without any further ado, this is what she posted on Facebook. This is her take. And again, she's a longtime Titans fan. But
Yes.
To kind of be completely upfront, she gave up on comics during the 90s, late 90s. And so she hasn't really kind of followed with things since like anything in the 21st century, really. And so she's kind of like stuck in a bit of a time warp. So I just kind of put that caveat out there.
Yeah.
All right. So Lori writes, so we just watched the first episode of DC's Titans. I was not impressed. If you haven't seen the episode, you may not want to read this yet. She says, Dick Grayson is totally wrong. He's not built like our comics Grayson. He should have been much more muscular for one thing. I did like the flashback to the death of his parents. And she goes on, I like the idea of Starfire being played by an African-American actress, but I did not like how she was introduced. I mean, really, she was an alien princess pulled from her world and made a slave who was sexually abused and beaten before escaping to Earth, and they put her on Earth as the plaything of a Russian mobster? Really? What the hell were they thinking? So Lori has an issue with that. She was essentially like arm candy for a Russian mobster.
Right.
Raven, she says, was the most interesting of the characters introduced. Hers was the only somewhat solid story of the episode, so she liked Raven.
Yes.
There wasn't enough with Gar to have an opinion, but I liked the Tiger.
Yeah, I think that was fair.
And she says, I wasn't really expecting a lot, and sadly I was not surprised by a much better pilot. It actually fell below my already low expectations. I'll see where it goes, but at the moment I'm not expecting I will stay with the show. So hopefully it improves, so she will stay with the show. The Teen Titans comics shaped all of my teen years and much of my adult life. They literally brought me to the love of my life as well as many dear friends. They saw me through many dark days and gave me the courage to go on. This show is going to have to improve about 1,000% to come even close to what the comics meant to me. Getting off my soapbox now, Lori. So.
Very nice.
So that's her
I love her passion.
Yeah, yes. If you know anything about my wife at all, you know she's very passionate about and isn't afraid to hold back about how she feels about something. So
yeah, and that's good.
Yeah. So,
yeah, but, and you know, I get where she's coming from.
Right.
And I am giving a little bit of time because I'm assuming that Corey had a plan.
Right.
And that she was not she was a plaything as to get something.
Right.
Is what I'm thinking. I think she was playing a role to accomplish a goal. But
yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. There's obviously way too many questions here for me to really form that much of an opinion yet.
And I do think it's important to say, I'm coming this from a almost 60-year-old white guy's
right.
Eyes. and I cannot see things that some of the fans who are younger than me, different demographics, different sex, different sexual orientation may see. So I always kind of put that as a grain of salt that just because I see things a certain way doesn't mean I'm right.
Right. And I think that's a great point to bring up. Because a lot of fans that are into the Titans these days, they didn't read the comics. They don't read comics, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They watched the Teen Titans animated series, and that came out in 2000s, and that's their Titans.
Yeah.
So as far as the Titans TV show, they're comparing it to the animated series that they loved. Yeah. So they're much more open to things like a younger Raven and whatnot. So they want to know where Cyborg is, and to be honest, so do I. I'd like to have at least a little nod to Cyborg. who we know is going
Yeah.
to be in Doom Patrol. So,
And Wally West
and
would
Wally
be nice to
West and
see.
some others. Yeah, we are going to get some
Yeah.
other Titans like
Gar Logan.
Wonder
Yes. Yeah.
Girl. We're
Yes.
going to get, and
Yes.
we're getting
Yes.
Hawk and Dove next week. So,
Right.
so we'll talk about that.
Yes.
And otherwise, yeah, I know Lori's brother John, like he loved the episode outright.
Right.
He thought it was great. He thought it was very strong and is very equally passionate. I didn't get his permission to read it. Otherwise, I would read what he posted on Facebook. But maybe he'll give that later on, or hopefully he'll write in John. Little hint,
Well,
if you're listening.
If someone wants to reach out to us and
Yes.
give us feedback, how can they?
I'm glad you picked up on that setup. So yes, if you want to reach out to us and drop us a line, let us know what you think about the Titans pilot or any of the other upcoming episodes. Please drop us a line at titantalkcast@gmail.com. That's titantalkcast@gmail.com. Tell it to Titan Talk there. Or you can reach us on Twitter at Titan Talk Cast on Twitter. Or you can reach us on Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast. We'd love to have you like and follow us there. That would be great if you would. And you can drop us a line and let us know what you think if you're not into the email. But we hope you are. And Jesse, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
You can reach me at Jesse Jackson, DFW, on Twitter. I am also on Facebook at Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas.
Right.
You can hear me talk about the world's longest running science fiction series, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast with Charles.
I hear that's a great podcast.
That it's an award-winning podcast. Yes. So we will be. If you want to hear Charles and I talk, this is the fall of Jesse and Charles.
Because we're doing weekly Titan Talk episodes, and we're doing weekly Next Stop Everywhere episodes with all these new episodes. So very busy fall and early winter for us.
Absolutely. And if you, I am also on Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen podcast.
Right.
That I have 1 to 2 episodes a week on that, talking about music.
Right.
And so I'm very, very, I'm out there if you want to hear me. And Charles.
Yes.
Where can they hear your fine work and reach you?
Well, they can obviously hear me on obviously Next Stop Everywhere, or my other podcasts they do for Southgate Media, including the Phantom Zone podcast they do with friend of the show, Karen Lindsay, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I mentioned when we were talking about Sherilyn Fenn, where Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, and I talk about all things Twin Peaks and David Lynch and whatnot. So hope you check us out there. Please support Southgate Media if you would. Go to their Patreon page and help us keep the lights on here. We'd definitely appreciate that. Otherwise, you can reach me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, on Facebook at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or my blog Geeky Things, if I can play this here.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about Titans, all the other comics, TV, sci-fi, news that just happens to catch my interest, and I have a lot of interest, believe me. Talk about Doctor Who, you name it, and I talk about all my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media, including Titan Talk, so please check that out. Damn good coffee and hot. I'd really appreciate that, and hope you enjoy it. Otherwise, next time on Titan Talk, we get to talk episode 2, Hawk and Dove, where we get the debut of Alan Ritchson as Hawk and Minka Kelly as Dove, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, there is rumors by someone who's seen it that we're going to be very, very happy with their portrayal. I have loved her since Friday Night Lights.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that.
I've liked her since she was on Almost Human.
Yes, she was very good in that as well. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Charles.
And they look like they have really good costumes too. So
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
This is great. I cannot
Yeah.
believe we finally have gotten to talk Titans.
Right. It's been a bit. I know we were kind of like doing episodes here and there, but
Yeah.
now we're finally reviewing episodes on a weekly basis, and
Yes.
so we're going to be doing this journey, and I hope you come right along with us. We're going to be here
Yes.
every week reviewing each episode right after it comes out. So we're going to try and get this up as soon as possible for all you
Yep.
guys to listen to. So watch Titans on Friday and come on back that following week where you can hear us here talk about it right here on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Bye, everybody. Yeah.
I am so excited to talk about this
Yeah.
because I was shocked.
Yeah.
And I'll save it for the podcast. But yes, I was like, what?
Okay.
So yeah.
Well,
Cool.
you don't have to worry. I thought it was okay. So I'm not going to be like, going off on big rants or anything. So you don't have to worry about that.
Well, it's okay if you did.
No Captain Grumpy on my side. Now,
It
Lori's side, that's a completely different story.
I was at first when I read your comment, and I may add this as a post-credit sequence,
Yeah.
but I was like, is Charles not going to want to do this? Oh, no.
No.
Okay.
Far from it.
All
Far
right.
from it.
All
Let me.
right.
Well, before we get started, let me go ahead and pull up Lori's comments. I've got it handy here.
Yes, I loved her comments.
Yeah, she went off on a little rant about Titans. She's not very happy especially about Mr. Grayson.
And I think we'll talk about that. This is such
Cat post.
beloved.
Yeah, there we go.
It is such a beloved set of characters.
Right.
And especially for us, so much of our friendship.
Yeah.
I mean, your marriage is based on this.
No kidding. I know. Isn't that
Yeah.
surreal?
Well,
And we'll save it for the podcast.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that. That's cool. So, all right, I'm ready whenever you are, I believe.
Here we go. 3, 2,